It's being moved down the line to a later date. Why? Because Disney has green-lighted a Mandalorian trilogy.
Big Tencent news with Ubisoft. What's the word?
Yeah, so we just got news that Ubisoft is doing so bad that Tencent might be increasing its worth in the company. And it looks like it might be a good enough amount that they might be making more decisions at Ubisoft. More of even considering a buyout of Ubisoft from the Guillemot family that currently owns it. With this, there's a lot of questions involving this, especially with Tencent being a Chinese company. We know that with being a Chinese company, they are going against Microsoft with the cloud. Like, they are at odds with the cloud. Microsoft wants to take over the West in terms of cloud-based stuff, and they almost are with Amazon, along with Google. But in the East, it's Tencent ruling. They might not be as big as Microsoft. Tencent does dominate in the East, especially in China, and that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
They're a huge company that has their fingers in a lot of different pots.
Yes.
We know that they have partial ownership of Riot Games. We know that they have partial ownership of a lot of different stuff that we all play here.
Absolutely. So. And the real question is, what happens to Activision Blizzard streaming rights if Tencent becomes the majority owner of Ubisoft?
Well, if we look at the article right now, that's not the case at the moment, but it looks like the Guillemot family is running out of things to sell.
Yeah.
So if you look down, it shows that the Ubisoft shares that are owned directly by Tencent are capped at 10%, and they don't have decision-making power. So they're not like preferred stock that has that kind of power. The 15% that the Guillemot family has does control the company, but it says that Tencent has bought just under half of that, which means the Guillemot can't sell any more and still retain controlling decision power. If they sell anything else, they are tapped.
Right. Yeah.
So they are fully in the red, and any more, and this engine's going to go. So it's interesting. Directing that back to the cloud, we know that Ubi has, 15 years of ownership of Microsoft's Activision cloud control.
Yeah, according to those articles, it's 15 years. The agreement includes the complete slate of current Activision Blizzard games, as well as all their new titles launching in the 15 years after the closing of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
Mm-hmm. So, relating this back to your point about them being a direct opponent, Tencent, who I'm talking to, of Microsoft potentially, I'm sure Microsoft wouldn't be overly thrilled that their $62 billion baby is now potentially in the hands of somebody who isn't exactly looking to give them a boost.
No, definitely not willing to give them a boost. I mean, they want to dominate.
Right. It depends how they play. It's always going to be deals and deals, but this is a huge play if Ubi loses control over this. They currently haven't. And I'm also curious if there's any kind of backroom levers that would give Microsoft an out if something did happen to Ubi. But
yeah, well, I mean, if anything, the CMA and are looking at this like, hey, this solves all of our problems.
Maybe.
Depending on what Tencent does with it, but I mean, if I was Tencent, I wouldn't stream anything at all. I would.
But let's say you're Ubisoft. You now have this power, you can make because it's been a year already, a 14-year deal and sell that and get that money before you lose control of the company.
Hey, that's
and
not
I'm
bad.
sure, so we'll have to see how this plays out. But then again, that might be a condition of we're not going to buy your stuff if you get rid of what we're really looking for here. Let's talk about Ubisoft.
Okay.
They haven't been doing so well lately.
No, they've been doing terribly. So the shares of Ubisoft have fallen 40% this year, and they've fallen because of terrible games.
Correct.
So
that's what I care about.
We started this channel on Ubisoft games. It was the Division 2, and I started with Far Cry 5.
I don't mind Division. Far Cry is cool.
The reason why this stock has been falling is because 1, Outlaws. 2, Skull and Bones has been the biggest one. Now that has broken Ubisoft because it was almost tanking Ubisoft for the past 10 years. They had some kind of 10-year deal to get that out the door, and no one plays it, basically. So in terms of a more in-depth look of what's happening with Ubisoft, this video, our context says basically that everything that's happening here is true. Okay, I'll put this link in the description. Go take a look at it. I know it's 25 minutes, but it goes into detail of what's happening.
Can you summarize like a couple bits of it? Because I haven't watched it yet.
Totally. They talked about Assassin's Creed Shadows and how the pushback they're getting from native Japanese gamers. It's crazy how they just did not hit the mark on who they're trying to sell it to, and how they're treating the actual Japanese history. This video also goes into some details about where they were going with Outlaws, and how Outlaws actually the Star Wars game they were going to make was going to be The Mandalorian, right? But The Division. And what I also heard from our contact is that technically, here's a tidbit, guys. Technically, that's still on. This video goes in saying it was scrapped. Technically, it's still on. It's being moved. It's being moved down the line to a later date. Why? Because Disney has green-lighted a Mandalorian trilogy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, can't be worse than what we had. So,
yeah.
So, interesting. But
I still think it's a great idea. And
it is a great idea.
If this Disney trilogy for The Mandalorian is an actual thing, and they actually are going to make a game, basically being The Division, just The Mandalorian Division, I'm okay with that. That sounds great. But instead, they went into the route of Outlaws.
Gosh, I'm just thinking of the possibilities with a looter shooter in the Star Wars universe as Mandalorian. It's going from like expansions could be different planets. You could take over, like, I could just imagine it, like whether you're fighting, a pocket of Imperial resistance or like dethroning the Hutts, like some kind of gangster planet. Like, there's so much cool stuff you could do with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fun. So Ubisoft is in this predicament because they, like many other companies, have been spending a lot of money making things that people don't want to buy.
Yeah. And calling it quadruple A games.
Yeah. Ubisoft's up against the wall. They're out of things to sell. And they control Blizzard Activision for the next 14 years.
Yeah.
As far as the cloud is concerned.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Of course, our major concern is the cloud.
Mhm.
And since that wasn't up and running to begin with, I think this might have set the cloud back tremendously.
They might, at least in this regard.
Especially,
Alternatively,
I know Ubisoft was trying to get their own cloud service up and running. I think that's right now that's on hold indefinitely.